as through your career and the successes that you've had in your career, how have you been able to have the patience to be able to nurture instead of wanting something so quickly?
Yeah, well, I do want it quickly, right? But I think that's the thing, is just understanding how it works. I mean, that's a biblical principle.
Yeah.
So I think if you just understand that, and do we want things that are like rooted in the rocks with no root system, or do we want deeper root? And I know I want deeper roots. So to me, it's never been about really cold calling or anything like that. Like, I want to somehow build a relationship and then go deeper before we really even start asking for that business. And that's kind of what's worked.
Hey guys, Wally Olivieri. All right, so what is 24/7 mindset? Most times when you hear 24/7, you're thinking what? 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, just grinding, hustling. I learned over time, a 24-year career in mortgage and multiple other businesses that I own, is unfortunately, you'll get burnt out. I became an absent father, I became an absent husband, and I became a poor business leader because I was trying to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, trying to build a business, maintain a business. When I learned how to work smarter, not just harder, by doing things the best way it could be done, instead of just simply doing my best, I learned how to work only 24 hours a week, 7 months a year, while I got paid from the business residually 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can do the same. Welcome to the show.
All right, so we are live. Super excited about today, and this is the 24/7 Mindset Live podcast show. It's interesting how much I've got my Whoop on, so how much the emotions rise, or how much the heart rate rises when you're going live, for sure. But excited to be on here. I think one thing that I'm really excited about our show here is Tim Lambert, loan officer here in Texas, had reached out to me. We sparked our friendship. We had lunch together. And one of the biggest things I was most impressed with was his consistency of his hard work for prospecting. So what I wanted to kind of share a little bit, Tim, a little bit about you, and then let's kind of get into like the secret sauce of what makes your prospecting so consistent.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, Tim Lambert. My location is I am in the DFW area, more on the west side of DFW. I've actually been in mortgage for going on 20 years. My path is a little bit different. I mean, I've worked for a bank for a number of years before. A few years ago, I kind of jumped over into what I call the mortgage world. Completely different world, right? And then right as the market was really, really changing. So for me, I had to start doing things completely different than what I had done before. What I did before was kind of, run a team, sit behind closed doors, all that. So when I got, opened up my own branch, it was more about what are we going to do to prospect? How do we get this business driving in rather than coming to me without doing a whole lot of work? So really, starting to build relationships. And of course, one of the main things that we do is, focus on realtors. That's kind of a go-to. But then as the market changed a little bit and with that, the purchase business, just had to do things a little different. So one of the things I did at a bank is, like construction loans. I knew that world quite a bit. So really just figuring out different ways to tap into, different markets, and kind of what you teach is how to open up these different lanes of referrals.
Yeah. Well, I think also for our viewers to understand, what's the difference between a self-sourced, it sounds obvious, but a self-sourced loan officer that works for Fairway Independent Mortgage versus a loan officer that works for a bank?
Yeah, I think, and just speaking for me personally, and loan officers that work for me, when you're at a bank, I think you're relying a lot on those bank relationships. A lot of the things are coming to you. I mean, I won't lie. I mean, I had that attitude of, I'm not chasing realtors. I'm not chasing these people. I can ask or whatever. We can build relationships, as they happen, but I'm not chasing anything, because there you're also, it's the difference between an employee mindset and entrepreneurial mindset. And I've kind of always had the entrepreneurial mindset, so I always wanted something a little bit more outside of that. So that was one of the biggest things and the scariest things of stepping out of that role is, okay, I'm not going to have people just walking in my door anymore.
Well, and also, I mean, what you said earlier, and I can tell the tone and the pitch you said it, like when you became a branch manager, you stopped being responsible just for you.
Yeah.
And now you're responsible. You've got to prospect, because if you're not prospecting as branch manager and you're in leadership, like how do you plan on paying for your employees?
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
I remember, I mean, my first year becoming a branch manager was 2013. I think I might have been like 35-ish or something like that. And I was doing 36 million in fundings, and the pressure of knowing that I was financially responsible
Mm-hmm.
to pay for my processor, financially
Right.
responsible to for my assistant, things of that nature, and it sparked a foot up my butt
Right.
to get me going.
Yeah.
And 2013, 36 million in fundings, 2014, 45 million in fundings, then 2015, 2 years later, 81 million in fundings, then it gets over 100 million in 2016. But the biggest thing around that is, like, I don't know, man. It takes a special person to want to be financially responsible for another person.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing I appreciate a ton about our lunch together, and my biggest takeaway was your systems for prospecting, which allows you to be really consistent.
Yeah.
And talk a little bit about that. Is that something you're born with? Is that something you read in the book? Is it something you learned? Is it out of failing a ton of times and like learning from it?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, to me, it's almost kind of out of a fear of failing,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you are responsible, so you do take that. Hey, it's not just me providing for myself and my family. You now have employees,
Yeah.
and you have their families. So failing is not an option, right?
Yeah.
So, I think the biggest thing for me is when I came. So I really started my branch in 21. Like I said, I stepped into a different world, bank world, into mortgage world.
Yeah.
21, getting my feet wet, I had to start building things new. 22 comes as the market changes. Okay, what are we actually going to start doing now to really start driving this business, since refis have dried up a bit? So as we're going into 23, really, I was just sort of thinking about action. I have all these ideas, all these things I want to do, but we're not taking action on that. I spend too much time thinking before we actually put things in process. So my whole word for the year was just take action. And with that came, really just, application. So I'm like, okay, what are 3 things that I can do and just C, consistent. T, I got to have tenacity to go after these things. And then I was just imagination. To me, you have to imagine these things. What do I want? Where do I want to get to? So imagining these things. O, I was looking for opportunity. And then N, I was just nurturing all those things. So to me, I just put that game plan in place, and it really just kind of got me out of my mind, out of that mindset of just thinking and really just taking action, putting things in place.
Dude, that's flipping. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
All right.
And I think that was really just the biggest thing. And from there, that's when we started seeing just a lot of progress.
You guys have to have written that down. So let's unpack that. So the first one for action, A, give me some like daily examples or daily actions that you take per day.
Right. And I do think that, and I do talk to people about that. And I think, like I say, pick 3 things.
Okay.
And, as you talk to multiple loan officers, there's 100 different things. What works for you may not work for me, vice versa. So to me, it was, okay, what are my what are the referral sources going to be, and how am I going to attack those? So, for instance, how do I go deeper with my realtors?
Yeah.
So one of the things I created was just a group.
Okay.
And one thing we do, like every other Thursday, we meet up and we go do a tour, and I'll have 25 or so realtors coming to that group. And
you're touring listings, you're touring new builds,
touring listings normally in the area where the realtors will come and say, hey, can we show this for this one? So we'll just go around. And
so is it like you pile all 25 in your car, or do you rent a bus? Like, how does that work?
So what I do is we usually meet at this coffee shop out on the patio. I cover coffee, breakfast for them, do a little bit of networking, and we have people coming in, whether it's roofers or plumbers, inspectors, and also kind of come in. And then we just take, on vehicles. Some may pile in together, and we just go hit those houses up. And so that was one way, is like, how do I get in front of as many people as I can, other than just one-on-ones? Well, we do one-on-ones also.
What's brilliant about that is you have, let's just say you do that Thursday afternoon. You've got all day Wednesday, all day Tuesday, all day Monday, all day Friday, all day Tuesday, a previous week of calling them to invite them to make sure they're coming.
Right.
And it gives you the ability to have a reason to call your realtors. or call the realtors that you're prospecting.
Exactly. So what that's turned into, because we're always looking at how do we give value, right? How do we give value? Well, one of the biggest things is getting in front of them. It's helped me build trust, and now I'm with them for, it's 3 or 4 hours that we're traveling around. So, different conversations come up, or, hey, I had this deal. Well, hey, you can do it this way. So now it's coming back to me. I may walk out of there with 2 or 3 referrals every time. So I think it's just, going deeper with those relationships and creating value to where now a lot of them are calling me up saying, hey, can I get on your tour? Maybe, realtors that I've never even spoken with that have heard about it, that are now reaching out to me to get on this.
That's brilliant, man. Absolutely brilliant. And absolutely brilliant. But the question is, how do you 10X that with getting your title company to refer agents to that? How do you want it that big?
Yeah.
That's the first question.
So when I first started, I went in with a title company.
Okay.
Yeah. So we went in together.
Yeah.
It's actually, it's a lot of work, putting all that together.
Yeah.
And then we just kind of, broke that out. So we're kind of inviting. So we did go in together with a title company. But right now we are kind of running that just on our own. So, but awesome. The title companies are definitely, that's also one of those things as far as, like realtors, the title companies, I've got to work with multiple title companies, and they're going to be a good source to tap into those relationships.
I can't tell you how many hundreds of millions of dollars I've closed fundings from title company relationships. Mm-hmm. My quarterly for my whole career, I would go meet with the title company business development manager, the escrow officer, and say, hey, here's my top 25 realtor list that I want to go after this quarter. Who on this top 25 realtor list do you know that you can introduce me to?
Yeah.
First question. Question number 2, who on this top 25 list that you want to be introduced to that I can go meet, then introduce you to? So every quarter, I get in a relationship with my title company and we say, hey, here's a list of people that I specifically want to do life with and that have a ton of buyer deals in their portfolio of loans and deals. And then also I use their resources and leverage them to get me in front of them or paid back with referrals back.
Yeah.
I think it's brilliant what you've built. Kudos to you for thinking outside the box, I love that imagination.
Yeah. And I do think that, for me, when I first started, I thought this is just me, right? I got to pick up the phone and I got to call this individual and that individual. Yeah. And it always comes down to work smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
Who can I leverage also, and what can we, and I think that's what you teach a lot too, is where you just become the connector or you're trying to, right? So just how can you be that connector?
Yeah. All right. So that's A. So make sure I don't misspell action.
Right.
So
C is consistency.
Good.
So I think we all have these things, these action items we can get excited about. We write them down. Hey, we're good to go. And then what happens? You do it a few times, and then maybe that new shiny thing pops up or whatever. Oh, I'm going to try this now. I'm going to try that. Well, you never gave time for this to work. You weren't consistent at it. So I think to me, it's just being consistent and doing those things, day in and day out and showing up.
So if I looked at your calendar, are there time blocks? Do you have appointments scheduled with yourself or is it with clients? Like how do you protect your calendar where you are consistent?
It's a mix. But honestly, I think that's one thing that I struggle with, is time in that. There's only so much time, but we're all working with the same amount of time.
Yeah.
Right. So how to manage that. And so I don't necessarily block out time. I'm trying to get to that point to where I can, but I always make sure that is, on top of the list to get done.
It's interesting difference between an absolute top producer, top performer, than someone that's a middle performer. I've not been the most enjoyable to be around in my career. And I remember when it was like 2017 through 2019, I hired my mother-in-law. She was an underwriter and she joined our company and we worked out of the same office. And she just tried to walk in my office and just start chatting it up. And I'm like, I got to get back on the phone.
Right.
It's like, I got to get back on the calls. And I remember it was like, you're not really enjoyable to be around at work. I'm like, it's called work. It's not called vacation. It's not called fun. Like if we want to hang out over the weekend, I'll hang out over the weekend. But I think it's one of the biggest things as a loan officer, you've got to be able to protect your prospecting time. Mm-hmm. And if not, there's unfortunately, my family suffered in 2013 and before. If you read my book and the story about like that, I'd work all day and I'd put out fires all day, and then I wouldn't be able to get to my prospecting until 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and it would take me through the end of the night. And at some point, like, you realize, okay, I need to be more of a present father or present husband.
Yeah.
And then you kind of really understand this, like, teammates or employees or borrowers, even, they're gonna get what they want from you. So you got to protect your time.
Right.
So what is like the top 1 or 2 things that you do to protect your time?
That's a tough one, because I think I kind of fall in there to where it is difficult, and you're always looking for that piece. I think we're going through that right now, especially with my team. Is sometimes it's like, yeah, you're not the most enjoyable, or you don't say things the right way, because my emails can be very short and very abrupt, and the way things come through in emails and text. Like I'm the kind of guy that it's just yes and no, right? Yeah. It's just, what's the answer? How do we get to a solution? So when we're dealing with your teammates, they want to feel, warm and fuzzy, are they doing the right thing, whatever. So it can come across as a little abrupt. So that's kind of, it's hard to kind of get out of that right now.
2 things helped me a ton, and I still use them today. So I've trained teammates that when you send me an email, whatever you need help with, ask me your question first, hit the return button a couple of times, and then tell me your story. I think that the biggest challenge is when a teammate's wanting something, they'll tell you this whole entire long story, then they'll ask a question somewhere. And I'm like, ask me the question first. I'm going to read your question, and then I'm going to skim your story. And a lot of times I can respond back super quickly. Right. Whereas before, so it's how I receive data, number 1. Number 2, for the longest time, I think it's been probably 11, 12 years, every teammate understands that you can't bring me a problem unless you bring me 3 possible solutions that you think could fix the problem, and what is the one that you recommend. Once I implemented that, what are the 3 top solutions that the teammate can do to fix the problem, and what is the one thing that they recommend out of those 3 solutions? I would watch like teammates walk to my door and like try to open the handle, then they'd pause and they'd walk back. They started to self-discover their own answers.
Exactly.
And before you know it, they started to get bravery on their own. And I think that's a true testament of leadership on a team. How self-confident in making decisions is your teammates without you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So are we on T now?
Yeah. So T, so tenacity.
Tenacity.
Yeah. And that's just, just going after it, right? And not taking no for an answer.
Yeah.
I've heard it said, be the honey badger. I don't know if you've ever seen that or whatever. So just going after it and not taking no for an answer, and being, again, that just lines back up with just being consistent.
Yeah, I think for sure it's one of these things. Also, you can be tenacious respectfully.
Absolutely.
Some loan officers have talked in the past. Well, I just don't want to be pushy. Mm-hmm. Well, what would you rather them do? They go work with some other loan officer that charges them out the wazoo, or they don't get the best rate and they don't get the best advice, and that loan officer doesn't have a post-closing annual mortgage review process, and that loan officer just makes a commission and never refers them to a financial advisor, CPA, family will attorney. It doesn't care about their future wealth.
Yeah.
Like I'm so-called pushy because I care about that client. I'm pushy because I care about the client's future, which allows me to win so much more. Mm-hmm. Todd Duncan is like the godfather of mortgage to me. And he said the comment once, 95% of the people go 95% of the way, quit, and settle for 5% of the results. And when you look at that and you unpack that, is how many times have we been so close to the finish line, but we didn't know it was the finish line if we just pushed a little bit harder and end up like just settling for mediocre results.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, some of my best referral partners are ones that may have, I've worked on for 2-3 years or longer, and it just takes time, but you just never give up. You just keep showing up, being consistent, having that tenacity that no, we're not going to, and maybe it's not even a no, but I'm not a hard sales person. I'm just going to keep being present, let them kind of see who we are and what we do, and then hopefully that wins over.
Yeah. And like one of my favorite things to ask is when they say, no, is, well, some of the best advice, first of all, that I've ever gotten about asking for the business came from my financial advisor. And his name is John White. And I was remembering just teasing John. He's this big muscled up dude. And I'm like, you're such the biggest wuss. Like, go for the close. And with like this gentle giant answer of his response is, Wally, if we're playing darts, you throw like 10x more darts than I do, but I hit bullseye more. And I'm like, all right, smart aleck, talk to me about why do you hit bullseye more? And he goes, because John, will never ask for the business until I'm confident that if they ever say no, it doesn't hurt the relationship.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, you got a point. That was pretty wise, because I would always it was like a shotgun of asking for the business and ask. If you don't ask, you never receive, until I'd learned to become a laser. And Gary Vee's got a great book, Jab, 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 Right Hook. And I took that title and I changed it to deposit, 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 withdrawal.
Mm-hmm.
And if I consistently make deposits into my referral partners, I've earned the opportunity to ask for a referral. I've earned the opportunity to ask for a withdrawal. And I think that's where tenacity comes in. Just because I'm tenacious of giving and giving and giving and giving and giving. Humans are going to give back at some point. There's no human I've ever worked with. I've given. Right. And they're like, oh, I'm going to take.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think a lot, like for me sometimes is, it's how are we pouring into the relationship and making sure that it's genuine. I mean, there's tons of time we'll go to lunch or whatever.
Yeah.
And not one time does real estate come up. Mortgage doesn't come up. We can sit for an hour and a half and have a conversation and never talk about business.
Yeah.
But yet we know why we're there, but you're just connecting on a different level. So sometimes it's not even about having to get to ask. It's where like you said, where are you giving? And then just building that trust into wanting to have, I'm always big about, like, I don't want it like necessarily a business relationship. I don't want it to feel what I say businessy.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that I'm, that you can call me and you can get real answers at any time and you feel comfortable talking to me.
Yeah. My lenses has always been, can I do life for that person?
Right.
I started, I think this might have been like 10, 12 years ago. I started only going after referral partners that I felt like I can do life with. And it's just, you look on their social and do they have common interests as you?
Right.
And once it became prospecting referral partners that had common interests and I could do life with, it just became so much easier to have conversations. Yeah. I mean, I can't tell you before I did that how many times I'd be sitting across the table. I'm like, oh my God, like poke me in the eye. Like, this is not fun.
Absolutely.
Like, I gotta fake this for how much longer?
Absolutely.
Are we done yet with lunch?
Yeah. No, we're definitely big on that. Is I want people to, we want to be aligned, right? Because to me they are partners. It's just not saying we're doing business with. They are partners, and I want to be an extension of them. So to do that, we want to make sure that we mesh well together.
I got a goofy filter that my filter is, if I'm sitting on the couch watching golf on a Saturday, and ABC Realtor calls me or ABC Referral Partner calls me, do I pause the TV and take that call, or do I'm like, yeah, it's Saturday, I'm gonna put my phone down?
Right.
And I only work with referral partners that I'm gonna pause the TV on golf and then take that call.
Yeah.
I think if you do that, they're always going to have your interest. And if a referral partner has your interest, they're going to always get the best out of you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely. Cool. All right. What letter are we on?
I.
All right. Tell me about I.
So for I, it's I got imagination.
Okay.
To me, to get somewhere, you have to be able to see where you're going. To me, it's just,
okay.
Just almost like taking those mental reps, right? If I can't see where I want to go in my mind, how am I going to get there?
Okay.
So sometimes it's just kind of meditating on that and, how do I get there? Creating who you want to be and what you want.
You ever journal at all?
I do. Yeah. So off and on. It's helpful to do it when I do it, but I'm not consistent with doing that. But I do. It is very helpful. But I'm always more mine, but I know it's important to get it from here on paper. But
it's funny that when I journal every morning, I'm talking to my imaginary friend.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you look at it that way, I'm telling a friend a story. I'm telling a friend. And then I'll go back and just highlight or circle things that I've kind of shared about the story and the actionable items. And I think journaling to me helps me drastically understand that my imagination, my future is the front windshield of my business car.
Yeah.
And journaling and looking backwards is that rearview mirror. the front windshield is so much larger than the rearview mirror. But anybody ever try to drive a car without a rearview mirror? That's kind of important, right? You want to look back at your past, and the more you study your past through journaling, at least for me, the more I study my past and I highlight different things or circle different things that stand out to me, the more I can be more proactive in my future.
Yeah.
And, the common denominator of you consistently learning how to improve in your future by like looking back at your past is brilliant.
Right. The book, Gap and Gain.
Yeah.
So, looking back on that, because, whenever you get stuck, you don't see it as it's happening.
Yeah.
But then when you look back, you're like, okay, we're making progress. We've come this far. So kind of being happy in that, even though we're not where we want to be yet, we've left.
Yeah. Dan Martell was the author of that.
Yes.
I was in Vegas this last week with the Ford. It's a mortgage conference. Yeah. Absolutely one of the coolest speakers I've ever seen. And super fit dude, super tall, but just a ton of complex analogies that he makes really simple. Mm-hmm. And when he's talking about the gap and the gain, like what was your biggest takeaway from that book?
And I think it's just that, because I think for me it's always like I want to get here. I want to build this, and when it just doesn't happen as fast, you can get frustrated, in the details of it. But then when we look back, if I look back to a few years ago when I actually started my branch, I'm like, wow, we've come a long way in a really tough market.
Yeah,
and I'm happy with that, and I would have taken that.
Yeah,
so just relax, just relax. It's okay.
It's funny. It's do you ever follow Alex Hormozy?
No.
Yeah, so he's a motivational speaker, very wise guy. If you don't follow him, I highly recommend you follow Alex Hormozy. And he talked about like winners, like true winners, really successful winners, don't have something that other people have. We're not missing. We don't have something other people are not missing. What we are missing is an off switch, and we don't know how to turn it off.
Right.
And I remember I was in Georgia probably about a year ago, and I was playing golf with a buddy of mine, and he asked me, and he goes, "Are you happy?" And it was such a question, I started kind of tearing up. And we had just finished playing golf, and it was a question to me that, like, I am happy, but am I happy where I'm at? And he was talking about, okay, you got the mortgage business, then you got the book, then you got the academy, and you've got the properties, and you've got the kids going off college, you're empty nesters, and he was going through it, and it's such a simple question, are you happy? But then you get like this hamster wheel of accomplishments.
Right.
And I think I love what you're talking about, is because you're really cherishing, hey, if I knew I'd be right here today a year or 2 years ago, I would have definitely taken that success. Mm-hmm. And I love that about you, because you really appreciate where you are, and you're not, you're grateful. And
well, it's one of those things that you are, but I have to keep reminding myself.
God, do you struggle with that?
Yes, because I struggle with that, because I have to keep reminding myself, because like you said, there's never an off switch. It's wake up in the middle of the night. Okay, what can I be doing? Like action. What action items am I doing today?
I email myself a ton.
I email myself,
and I'm like, hey,
emails I've ever received.
Like brilliant idea. Then I go back to bed.
Right. So, okay. So I was wondering how people do that, because I can email myself 5 or 6 times during the middle of the night.
Literally, I wake up in the middle of the night and go, but from the bed to the bathroom, some idea will come to me, and I'll like send myself an email.
But you know what's funny about that though is sometimes in the middle of the night I'll do that, and something seems so important, and then I get there in the morning, I look at it, I'm like, delete. That was not as important as I thought it was. So you can kind of sift through those things. So I think it's, you asked earlier about how do you protect that time, whatever. I think that's kind of one of those things, is sifting through what is actual items and what's not, because in my mind there's a whole lot going on up there that we need to be doing. So I send myself more emails than anybody ever sends me. I think
it's funny, like how the distractions can be so easy, but a lot of the distractions come from us distracting ourselves. Yeah. And at the conference, I met this guy from Canada that is big on YouTube, and he made a Instagram reel probably like the second or third day or something like that from the conference, and he goes, "Hey, I'm purposely not in the conference because a billionaire gave him advice, and he said, if you go to a conference, you're take your first day, your best idea in your first day. Don't go learn more things. Just go implement that thing. And he was in his hotel room implementing whatever thing that he learned. And I think sometimes we can go to a conference or find a mentor or read a book, and it's like 1,400 ideas, and like then we try to prioritize them out, and before you know it, you got like 16 things you're trying to implement at the same time. It's just not gonna happen.
Like I had this one loan officer, and it was like, every week it was 5 more things. I want to try this. I listen to this. I listen to that, and it was like, hey, let's just get back to pick a few of them and be consistent at those first, because I think that's the whole thing is we see all these things. We want to do this. We want to try that. But we can only do so much.
There's a Instagram reel I saw that talked about the difference between an entrepreneur and a wantrepreneur. Mm-hmm. And the wantrepreneur talks about multitasking, working on multiple different things at the same time. A entrepreneur focuses on switch tasking. They'll switch from this task to this task, but when they're in the task A, they're a mile deep and an inch wide on task A. They're present in task A. They're focused on task A. They're working on solutions for task A. Once they complete that, then they go to task B. Then they go a mile deep and an inch wide on task B. And that little small shift for me has helped me become a better father, a better husband, a better professional, a better entrepreneur, business owner, just because it's got me more laser focused in that specific lane when I'm in that lane.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. You ever struggle with that, or is that something you ever worked on?
Yeah, no, I think that the ADHD in me is always wanting to, do this, and you're thinking about this, and you want to, but I mean, I'm pretty good at, dialing in and getting done what we need to get done.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a struggle. Just like I said, going back to the whole gap and gain. Yeah, you're here and you have to, be thankful for where you're at and all those things, but there's still, I always say, that it's, how much is enough, a little more type of deal. So how do we not have that mindset and just figure out how to be happy where we are and just take the growth as it comes?
Yeah, we had a team meeting yesterday, and one of our teammates, every time I called on them, they were like, "Oh, what was the question again?" And they were returning emails in the team meeting, and he was trying to multitask. And I sat with him after the team meeting, and I asked him. I said, "Hey, you notice how it was like 3 or 4 different times?" I called him on, and he like, "What was the question again?" And I said, "How do you think that looks to your peers? Mm-hmm. How do you feel that looks to the rest of your teammates? How do you think it looks to your employer?"
Yeah.
And not only that, but then how did that look to yourself? I mean, when you've got to re-ask again, it shows that your emails are more important than your presence in that meeting.
Right. Yeah.
So I encouraged him, and he thanked me this morning. I said, I encourage you to either don't be in the meeting if there's such a big 911 that you need to focus on, or if you're in the meeting, you need to be present in the meeting.
Right.
Right. Absolutely. And when we look at that, it's like, I can't tell you how many times I struggled with that earlier in my career with my spouse or with my kids, because I'd be home and I'd have my phone out or have my laptop and I'm responding to this or I'm going through that, or I'm like looking at, and I'm responding to this text or I'm responding to this email. Well, hold on, let me finish this real quick. And somebody asked me today, if you're sitting across the table, with a date on your wife, or you're sitting across the table with your top number one biggest realtor referral partner, would you treat their biggest realtor referral partners the same way?
Exactly.
And I'm like, hell no.
Right.
I get fired by that realtor all day.
And I smile at this because this is a common occurrence, with my wife, is like, she'll even ask me that. Would you do the same thing if that was your partner? It's common to where we'll be in a conversation and I can just pick up my phone and be in it and not even realize what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So, the other day, my son-in-law was up, and it's just him and I, and we're driving, and we're having conversation. And he's in business, has business going, and his phone goes off. And in the middle of him talking, he stops and just starts texting.
Okay.
And I just kind of started laughing. I'm like, "Oh, this is what it feels like." This is what it feels like. So it was kind of good to see on the opposite side. With just mid conversation stop. So I find myself doing that a lot. So yeah. Figure out how to be present in the moment for, like, whether it's family or your partners.
It's a younger loan officer assistant worked for me once, and he asked me, "Hey, can I come to work tomorrow later in the day, later by like say 10 a.m. or so instead of coming at 8 a.m.?" And I said, "Why? What's going on?" He goes, "Well, I want to watch cartoons with my son in the morning." And I said, "As much I appreciate that." I said, from an older father versus you being his kid was like maybe 2 or 3 years old, and I said, what does watching cartoons mean to you and your kid and his son? And he was like, well, I just want to be sitting next to him and watch cartoons. And I said, there's a difference between quantity time with your kids and a major difference between quality time with your kids. I think it's, and right now I talked to probably like 4 months ago, and his kid is like 12 or 13. And the amount of awesome conversations they have relationship wise is just out of this world. I flew back from Vegas. Like my flight was supposed to come in Sunday night at like 8, 9 o'clock, and it came in at 1:30 in the morning. And I was just so beat, so tired. But Monday night, I'm like, okay, I'm going to catch up on my sleep. My 2 kids from college come home, and they're sitting there talking, and it's like 9:30. I'm looking at my watch, but we're sitting talking, having a great time, just talking. And like 11:30, 12:30, 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm like, about to fall over. But man, it was my favorite thing to do with my 2 sons and my wife is to sit around in our living room, giving each other crap and just talking and laughing and like having a time.
Right. We do that a lot, especially my son, 17. And it's like whenever he wants to grace us with his presence, you enjoy that and you take advantage of that. So definitely understand.
It's funny. You got a couple kids older than mine, but it's, I would have never, ever thought that we would be, or at least me, I'll speak for myself. I'm the groupie of my kids. And there's a Luke Combs song that talks about like front door famous. And my son's coming back from college. Like the gate guard lets know he got in, or I'm watching on the app where it's Life 360 and he's coming home. I'm staying in by the front door every single time when he comes home from college. Right. And it's, I'm standing by the door ready to give him a big hug. My wife's standing by the door ready to take his laundry from him. And but it's funny to see the difference of like being a front door famous.
Yeah, it's kind of like we would talk about my daughter. My daughter was in the Marines, and whenever she comes home, or during those times she was serving, it was the same way. Right, she was everything was about her when she came home. Right?
So, all right, what letter are we on? So we use imagination.
So imagination, it's just opportunities. Okay. So looking for those opportunities. To me, opportunities arise when you're looking for them. Okay. And one of the things that I always think about is like, if you've ever bought a new vehicle and you think, oh, I'm the only person who has this vehicle. Yeah. Well, now as you're driving down the road, you start seeing that vehicles. Now it's there. You're looking for it. Yeah. And so I think you're going to find what you're looking for.
So when you look at that, how do you tell the difference between an opportunity and a distraction? Because a lot of times, there's people like, I've got a great opportunity for you. And before you know it, like they've pitched you on how to bring their goals to life using you.
Correct. Yeah. And I think those are different things that, we sort through. And I do see that because especially in our world, if we're referring and they're looking for referrals and it's always everybody's looking out for the best interest. I think sometimes you got to travel down that road a little bit and just have discernment over it. And for me, I pray for discernment, every day. And, to me, it's always kind of like more of a spirit thing. How do I feel about it? And I just trust that because we don't always know what's around the corner or what's good or what's bad. But
have you ever read the book 2 Chairs?
No.
This book transcended my life. So there's an author that I got super lucky to meet. His name is Bob Bodine, and he's looking.
I've heard of.
You've heard of Bob? Okay. Yeah, he wrote the book The Power of Who, and he wrote a second book called 2 Chairs.
Okay.
And amazing, absolutely amazing book about faith. And it talked. I'll summarize the book for you. I struggled a lot, me praying and telling God about what's going on or what I'm wanting or what I'm praying for and stuff of that nature. Mm-hmm. And it talked about how, like, if you take 5 minutes to pray every morning, you speak for 1 minute, you listen for 4. And you might as well have told me that I needed to beat Michael Jordan at 1-on-1 that was so hard for me to do.
Yeah.
To sit there, and because I felt like I'd talk for the 4 minutes and listen for one, but I'd be like selling God on why he should fix my problems, or selling God on what blessings. And before you know it, it's like, okay, God, here's where I'm at. This is an opportunity for you to do a miracle in my life if you choose to. Then you listen for the next 4 minutes.
Yeah.
So you definitely sound like you're a man of faith.
Yeah, for sure.
I'd
Absolutely.
highly recommend the book, Two Chairs, and absolutely amazing book for sure.
Yeah, no, and I think that's one thing, is talk a lot and we don't listen
Mhm.
enough. Just the other day, my wife said, "Do you ever really relax? Do you ever just sit and just relax and turn your mind off?" And I'm like, "What?
Like, how?
Is that possible?
How?
How do you do that? I didn't know that was a thing." So just sit and just listen. And I'm like, that's a tough thing to do.
A beach will do that for me.
Yeah.
Waves crashing will do that for me. One of my favorite things to do is to play golf,
Mhm.
because, like, you know who Tim Brahim is?
Mhm.
He made fun of me the other day. We're in the car, and he was like, "Yeah, what do you do?" I said, the only thing that can get my mind off mortgage is playing golf." He goes, "Oh, I feel sorry for your wife." I'm like, that's not what I meant.
Right. Yeah. No, definitely understand, because there's two things for me. So playing golf, which last night I went, like, it was a day 4:30. I'm like, I'm just gonna go play like 9 holes.
Yeah.
That, and then one of the things I've done growing up, I race dirt bikes, or have raced dirt bikes.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I can go do those things, and I don't think about anything else other than that. But I don't do that really anymore. But golf is one thing that you just get out there and it's just that, and I can just get away.
I used to have a Ducati 949, sold it a couple years ago, but I've had a motorcycle for years, and that was my favorite thing to do, is to get on that bike, because you've got to pay attention, you've got to be focused.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much at risk. And my oldest son was like, "Hey, Dad, can I call you? Can you get the headpiece?" And I'm like, "No,
right."
Like,
no.
It's my only alone time that you can't call me. I can't call you. I can't check my text. I can't check my email. Imagine running the road in a motorcycle checking an email, like, responding. Like, that's not a thing.
Right.
But yeah, it was absolutely okay. That's awesome. So, all right. So we're on imagination, but I want to stay here for a second. And the reason I say that is, you're when you've got action and you pair that with imagination, there's a ton of great results from it.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite things to watch you in our lunch that we had the other day, and you're talking about your career, like, you're a man of action. Which sounds cliche, but you're a man of doing. And how do you use your imagination to get you in action?
Yeah. Well, I think for so long it was not taking action, and then that procrastination then turns to anxiety, because you want to do all these things. And so I think with what would happen is I would email myself during the middle of the night, or I would, during the day, I'd make all these notes, and then I'd go back and I'd look at it. I'd have the same things on there 5 or 6 times. I'm like, okay, that was kind of that kicker of like, hey, you have these great ideas. It's time to start doing them, and just quit, thinking about them.
Yeah.
So I think that imagination always comes before the action.
Okay. And let's just say you've got an awesome idea. Okay. You're driving down the road. You've stopped at a stoplight, and you send yourself an email, because we don't text when we drive, right? And you send yourself an email, like, once you see that that idea, how do you bring it to life? Like, how do you dissect it from a cool idea to actually, like, here's the actionable steps that I'm going to do?
Yeah, I think once I finally make the decision, I mean, it's just full go. It's like, if, first of all, is it going to be, is it myself that's going to do this? Is it my team that don't need help? And that's usually kind of where that goes. Who else am I asking for this help? What I need to do? And then I heard the other day, or saw something, and it was like, so the other day, my mom, there was something about like going to the dentist, and she just like said, "Oh, I need to go to the dentist," and she picked up the phone right then and called the dentist. And it was like, oh, who does that? This would have taken me 2 days from now. I think I'll pick up the phone and call the dentist.
Yeah.
So I think it's moving to that mindset for me, is when it comes to mind, do it then, and get out of putting it in my list that sits there for months or whatever, and it's there for 5 different times.
Have you ever read the book though? What got you here is not going to get you there.
No.
It was a great book. I was a smart aleck also. I got a chance to get a chance to learn more about the author. And I said, you need to write a sequel that who got you here won't get you there. And I think that so many loan officers or professionals in general always thinking about what can I do to bring that to life. Mm-hmm. And I think when you look at like scalability, I've learned to start thinking, who can I hire, recruit, pay, or inspire to help me bring this to life.
Right.
And I think that's taught me a lot of humility around being the amateur in a lot of those situations. Mm-hmm. Because when you go to someone that is an expert in that space, you're like, hey, I don't know how to do this. I want to do this. You're an expert in this ABC space. How can you help me bring this to life?
Exactly.
Versus, I think, unfortunately, where people kind of get caught up is they think that they've got this disillusion that they're supposed to be the expert in every category of
right.
space.
Yeah.
And I try to walk in the room and not necessarily like I try to act like the dumbest person in the room, but I try to act like the most inexperienced person in the room, because it allows others to be able to share their wisdom, to share their stories, to share their successes. Yeah. Whereas, someone that walks in the room and I'm great, I'm awesome, I know this, I know that, like, who's going to help that guy?
Right. No, and I think that's, in our business and kind of where I'm at in my business,
yeah,
it's to the point of, okay, what do I turn over? What do I hold on to?
Yeah.
And, going back to the, how do you protect your time, is I'm at a point where that's difficult to do. So I have to turn over more things.
Yeah.
I need people to say, and then what they've proven time and time again is they're capable.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. All right. Are we on O now?
No, O is opportunity.
Okay.
So N is nurture.
Okay.
And so I think you have, again, action. All these are action items. And N is just making sure that, you're staying on top of those. How are we nurturing our relationships? How are we, like, are you prospecting? Are you reaching out to them? How often are you doing it? Is it just once here and there? No, I mean, just, sowing and reaping, right?
Yeah.
And you have to water.
You ever think about writing a book? Because, that you just gave out like the table of contents
right.
of a great book.
No, I have this, and I have a few more of these.
Okay.
More of these. So
this is going to be a 5-hour podcast.
So I think it could be, but to me, the end is just nurture, and knowing that things aren't going to grow immediately.
Yeah.
Right. We have to keep sowing and reaping and watering, and it just comes down to doing those things.
I think also when you have N and nurture, and it's the tail end of the race to the word action, mm-hmm. to me, it has a lot of wisdom behind it for the sake of patience.
Yeah.
Because when you know that you're supposed to nurture a relationship or nurture a client or nurture a referral partner, you're prepared for it to take some time.
Right.
You can't nurture something in 38 seconds. That's not called nurturing. That's called microwaving.
Right. Yeah.
And, I try to teach loan officers all the time that, successful businesses worth having is more of a crock pot than it is a microwave. So the question I've got for you is, as through your career and the successes that you've had in your career, how have you been able to have the patience to be able to nurture instead of wanting something so quickly?
Yeah, well, I do want it quickly, right? But I think that's the thing, is just understanding how it works.
Okay.
I think that's a biblical principle of sowing and reaping.
Yeah.
So I think if you just understand that, and do we want things that are, like rooted in the rocks with no root system, or do we want deeper roots? And I know I want deeper roots. I want those deeper relationships. So to me, it's never been about really cold calling or anything like that. Like, I want to somehow build a relationship in the beginning, and then go deeper before we really even start asking for that business. And that's kind of what's worked for me. And then at that point, we're planting those deeper roots.
Yeah. Going back to, again, the lunch that we had together, I think I really enjoyed how deep our conversations got to, and how quickly they got really deep. And I think you're an amazing human being that cares enough to not hold your cards to your chest.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated you being able to be vulnerable, but more importantly, you putting yourself out there. One of the biggest frustrating things that I ever have is somebody, like a perfect example. I was at the Ford event, like I said last week, and there was literally four different people came with me. Are you speaking today? And I'm like, no, I'm not speaking. I'm just attending. Well, why are you here if you're not speaking? I'm like,
Yeah.
so I can learn.
I can learn, right? Yeah.
And I'm like, well, just because I've written a book or just because I've got a podcast or just because I've got this or that doesn't mean I know everything.
Well, so one thing about your book is noticed a lot through it is you're referencing what you've learned over years.
Yeah.
These aren't just ideas coming out of the blue sometimes. I mean, it's, your ideas mixed in with others.
Yeah.
But you also mentioned that, you were told for maybe 10 years before you finally, like, that light bulb went off. You're like, hey, maybe this actually works.
Yeah.
So sometimes we do have to keep doing that. We keep having to hear it over and over because, I mean, sometimes maybe it clicks that first time or maybe it's the 10th time.
Yeah, it's funny to see, again, you've got kids, so you understand this, but it's comical to see when our sons walk in the house and one of the first things they do is they go to the kitchen and they wash their hands. And I mean, you've had boys and they will literally, I'm like, did you shower? Yes. Well, why is your hair dry? Well, I didn't. Then they go upstairs and they shower and their hair is wet. I'm like, I don't smell any shampoo. Or like they go brush their teeth and then like they come back. I'm like, I don't smell any toothpaste. I need you to go brush your teeth with toothpaste.
Right.
And did you use mouthwash? Did you floss? And it's like, I think if you look at it that way, it's neat to see the outcome of consistency, especially raising kids.
Yeah. But
you can't raise a kid overnight, right? It's over time. And I think any healthy business, I talk about like where I am in my career, it's a 26-year career. It's somebody told me probably like it was like 4 years ago. I'm like, man, you just came out of nowhere. I'm like, this was like I was 21 years in the business. I said, yeah, I was a 21-year overnight success.
Right.
And there's so many failures and times that like you learn and you move forward, and then you compile in a book and everybody thinks you're smart. I'm like, no, I just failed more than anybody else failed.
Exactly right. I stepped out. I found opportunities. Yeah. I took advantage of those opportunities. Some failed. Some some worked, and
so
just keep moving
what
forward.
was some of your feedback from the book, or do you remember like some of your big ahas at all?
Well, first of all, I think the biggest thing about it is some of the things that we go through. I think as loan officers, branch managers, as we're building a team, is those feelings we're not in it alone. They're not abnormal things. So some of the things that you spoke about are things that maybe I'm dealing with now.
100%. Yeah.
So that's the biggest thing. Is hey, we're not in this alone.
Yeah.
And then also, I think the biggest thing is where I'm at right now is really getting to the point to where I can turn more things over and kind of let go of some of that control. That's just kind of where I'm at in my career with my production and my branch.
What do you feel like your biggest challenge of letting go of that control a little bit is?
I think it's the same thing as most everybody is like, what can they do it as well as I do it, and getting out of that mindset. I think that's the biggest thing. Or that, my referral partners or my clients, I've talked to them, is it going to be portrayed in the same way or whatever? They're going to say it like me, trying to get out of that mindset and let them know that, hey, you hired these people, you had people on your team for a reason.
Yeah. And
I think another big thing in the book was, and it was just a quote you used, if you can find somebody that does it as 80% as well as you, here you go.
I mean, I keep referencing 2013, but that was such a pivotal moment, and I've been really blessed to have a lot of great wisdom, wise people around me.
Right.
And I remember, thank God this person took pity on me and just didn't slap me upside the head. But the story you're referring to is, it was a teammate I had at the office. His name was Neil, and he asked me how recruiting is going. And when he asked me how recruiting is going, I wish I could take these words back, but I said, it's going horrible. And he goes, why is it going horrible? He goes, egotistically, and I'm very sorry to even say these words, I said, because I can't find anybody as good as me. I mean, I want to go back and punch myself in the face. And in his response, which I'm so thankful for, he goes, can you find somebody half as good as you? And again, my next answer was really poor. And I said, yeah, there's a ton of people half as good as me. And his response was, okay, go find two people that are half as good as you, hire them, and them combined can do as much as you or as well as you.
Yeah.
And he goes, if you hire 3 people, that can do that are half as good as you, that can do 150%. And that like sparked an idea of understanding, okay, just because I am 10, 15 years older than these loan officer assistants that I'm hiring, doesn't mean that they don't have the potential to be better than me.
Mm-hmm.
So when I went and hired people that were half as good as me, then trained them up and coached them up and gave them systems to follow and scripts to follow, before you knew it, like for our climb from 36 million next year to 45 million next year to 81 million next year to 100 million, then you fast forward to 2019 and it goes from 100 million to 150 million to 200 million. I didn't get smarter. Yeah. I didn't get faster. I didn't get more attractive. I had more gray hairs, and I mean, the team elevated. And as a team elevated, it made it so much easier for us to be so much more successful together. Because if I started off with people half as good as me, then they became 60% as good as me, 70%. Yeah. And before you know it, your team, if you build it correctly, and your teammates can easily be 150% better than you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's kind of that point is where we're at. And that's one of the biggest things that I've taken away from that is, going through the same process and the same steps and just trying to get to that point.
Yeah.
Looking for a way like, going on vacation, mm-hmm. right? And then, it following you, how did we get to that point? We have to turn some of these things over, some of this control over, so we can get some of this time off to enjoy time with family and do that. So that's kind of my biggest goal right now.
Yeah. Especially but also I think it's something you're going the right direction. You're super humble and you're super coachable around that space. You partner with one of my favorite human beings ever, Matt Wood and the mm-hmm. Wood Brothers. And Fairway was an amazing company that was at. I tell everybody at the time, Fairway is probably the best company I ever worked for. And such a high level of class with Steve Jacobson and the leadership there. And one of my favorite things is I was resigning, and this was like 2022, and they had an offboarding meeting. Yeah. And I tell people all the time, and it just blew me away. And the offboarding meeting, they're like, okay, what do you want? And I said, what do you mean what I want? And they're like, okay, do you want your space? Do you want your desks? Do you want to make sure you take all your employees with you? And they went through his whole entire Rolodex of things that I get to walk away with first. Like every other mortgage company I've worked out, like, we're going to take this from you. We're going to take this from you.
Right.
And then you get to the pipeline and like, hey, you got 56 loans in the pipeline closing this month or next month. Who do you want to take with you and who do you want to stay here? I'm like, you're going to let me take loans away. They're ready to close. They're already in the pipeline and move them with me. And that's a loss of revenue for you guys. And they're like, yeah.
Right.
And here I am 3 years later, singing their praises.
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of class act is absolutely brilliant with Fairway. Love that company.
Absolutely. Yeah. And to speak with, for Matt and Mark Wood, the way I got to Fairway, honestly, I've never heard of Fairway. That wasn't the space I was living in, being in the bank. Yeah. That just shows you the difference between a bank mindset and what I call the mortgage mindset.
Yeah.
So when I get partnered with Matt and Mark, it's kind of the same thing. I went and met with them, and we probably talked, 3 hours, and we really didn't even talk about production.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about mortgage. We just talked.
Yeah.
And then kind of at the end, like, so
we're doing this.
Like we're a fit. Yeah. It was kind of that kind of thing. And then it was they had more belief in me than I had in myself, type of thing. So it was just a good match.
Have you played golf with Matt yet?
Yeah. I played with Matt and Mark.
It's I haven't played with Mark. I played a ton with Matt. We used to all the branch manager meetings, and we'd go up to corporate in Wisconsin, and we'd go play Whistling Straits, Black Wolf Run, Erin Hills, and all these cool different places, and it makes those manager meetings a little bit more fun.
A little bit, yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, well, cool, man. Well, hey, thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Wally.
Absolutely awesome. Yeah. So, do we have questions? Okay, read one out to me.
From Kip Pearson, agent tour as a lender. How are you getting access to the homes? Wouldn't you have to have a realtor license to get in the door? Or is this already an established tour that you've up-leveled?
Yeah, so it's a tour that those realtors, we have them present. So it is a home that we're going to go tour for them. So they are on site, and they are actually there hosting other agents coming in. We do feedback sheets because right now, really, that's the biggest thing that they're looking for is, is it priced too high? We're not, people aren't showing up to their open houses. So how are they having these conversations with their clients on whether it's a price reduction or whatever? So yeah, so the listing agents are there, present and letting us in.
Yeah, so those are really great. I think another term for those would be broker opens. And when the broker, the listing agent has the house open, they've got the tour. Like here in Dallas, Kip, we have that all the time. But I think what was brilliant with what I really liked that Tim did was that it's almost like a happy hour networking before the broker open.
Yeah.
And you build rapport, you build a community, then you go. So I thought that was super
Absolutely.
smart. Yeah. That's the only question? Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. If you want to be on the podcast, or if you feel like this has brought value to you, drop your name below, and we'll take it from there. All right. Thank you, everybody.
So thank you so much for listening today. It means a lot you took time out of your day. I don't take that lightly. Understand very clearly that you're very busy. With that being said, if you want to continue your journey and learn more about 24/7 Mindset, if you're on Facebook, which I'm going to guess you are, then go to 24/7 Mindset on Facebook and join the private community. I do coaching tips on there on a daily basis, but from scripts on there to systems on there, models, and the ability to be able to grow and scale a business while you have a quality of life. Hope to see you there.